we're doing 4 shlokas. Oh yeah, Jai. We're doing 4 shlokas and we'll be doing 43 till 46. Jai. We'll all do Mangalchar. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahiyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vangsha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So we'll do text 43. Na Brahma Danda Dagdhasya Na Bhuta Bhayadasya cha Narakashanugrinanti Yam yonim saugata Yam yonim saugata Na Brahmadanda Dagdhasya Na Brahmadanda Dagdha Na Bhuta Bhayadasya cha Na Bhuta Bhayadasya Narakashanugrinanti Yam yonim saugata Yam yonim saugata Vaishnavas Na Brahmadanda Dagdhasya Na Bhuta Bhayadasya cha Narakashanugrinanti Yam yam yonim asau gata. Na brahmadanda dagdhasya. Na bhuta bhayadasya cha. Narakashanugrinanti. Yam yam yonim asau gataha. Na brahmadanda dagdasya. Na bhuta bhayadasya cha. Narakashanugrinanti. Yam yam yonim asau gataha. Word for word. Na, never. Brahmadanda, punishment by a Brahmana. Daganasya, of one who is so punished. Na, neither. Bhuta bhayadasya, of one who is always fearful to the living entities. Cha, also. Naraka, those condemned to hell. Cha, also. Anugrinanti, do any favor. Yam yam, whichever. Yonim, species of life. Asau, the offender. Gataha, goes. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Chanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. A person who is condemned by a Brahmana or is always fearful to other living entities is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. Purport. A practical example of a condemned species of life is the dog. Dogs are so condemned that they never show any sympathy to their contemporaries. Text 44 and 45. Kashyapa vacha krita sok, I'll just sing it. Krita shokanutapena shadhya pratyavamarshanaad bhagavatyauru manacha bhave mayapi chadharad putrasyaiva cha putranam bhaviteka satam mata gashyanti yadyasa sudham bhagavat yashasa samam. Translation. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your lamentation, penitence and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your adoration for Lord Shiva and me, one of the sons, Prahalad, of your son, Hiranyakashipu, will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that of the Personality of Godhead. Text 46. Yoger hemeva durvarnam bhavayishyanti sadhava nirvairadi viratmanam yachilam anuvartitum. Translation. In order to follow in his footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity. Just as the purifying processes rectify gold of inferior quality. Purport. Yoga practice, the process of purifying one's existential identity, is based mainly on self-control. Without self-control, one cannot practice freedom from animosity. In the conditional state, every living being is envious of another living being. But in the liberated state, there is an absence of animosity. Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways. Yet, after the death of his father, he prayed for his father's liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked, but he prayed that his atheistic father might be liberated. He never cursed any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigation of his father. Jai. So here we are in the conversation of Diti and Kashyapa, and we are in the scene where the realization of the mistake is there. There is now a mistake. A mistake has occurred. Right? So now this is in one sense how we as devotees can deal when mistakes happen. We are all going to commit mistakes. To err is human. Actually, to err means that you are in the material manifestation. Even animals make mistakes. Right? Everybody makes mistakes. Right? And you will notice that, sometimes when you see the pigeons, you will see the pigeon will try to, grab a rice, but it's very difficult. And they get hurt. They'll fly off, and you'll see after a few minutes they'll come back and try again. So to make a mistake it's a quality of being in the material manifestation. It's one of the defects. To commit mistakes is one of the defects, right? So this defect, once we accept this, we will recognize that even amongst devotees, we will make mistakes. So first we have to accept the defect. If you are working with a defected body, that means those defects will fructify. Right? So all of us are dealing as devotees, but with a defected body. Eventually, when we get our Swarupa, we will deal with a non-defective body. Is that making sense? We will deal with a non-defective body. But the fact that we have this body means it's defected, which means in our interaction, there will be defect. Is that making sense? The interaction will cause a defect. So first we have to agree on this. What usually will happen is we feel, and I feel this a lot, materialists make defects. I'm a devotee. Krishna, why am I being punished? There's no defect, isn't it? There's natural. It's natural to feel this. But actually, first we have to recognize that I'm dealing with a defected body, there will be defects. You would see Srila Prabhupada, he would... one time, Srila Prabhupada was bowing down and he got up and a kid was behind him. Right? A child was behind him. Small Gurukul boys, they were behind. So Srila Prabhupada stood up and that kid was right next to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada pushed him. Just pushed, nudged. I shouldn't use the word pushed. Nudged him. Just nudged. And then, as Srila Prabhupada was going, suddenly he turned around and he had his cane and then he folded his hand and he said, I'm sorry. And so then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that actually there is body. So body means there is defect. Something will go wrong. That is why as devotees, one of the most pertinent thing we do is when we enter the temple, we bow down. Right? It's a very good exercise. You're doing your squats. You must do squats. Squats, it keeps you healthy. You must do your squats. But more importantly, it is actually to recognize that I'm making a mistake. Right? That's why we are bowing down. So that's why it's explained when you enter, your first bow down is Vangsha Kalpataru. You're first asking for forgiveness from the Vaishnavas, right? That's the first bow. Then you will come and then Namah Vishnu Padaya and then Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya. So then the process. But the first bowing down is Vangsha Kalpataru. We are like, big mistakes. I'm making big mistakes. You see that mindset. In the initial practice, it's physical, right? I got to come and I got to bow down. So I keep telling my son, when you enter the temple, you must bow down. And he's asking, why should I bow down? I said, you just bow down. You don't worry about why you're bowing down. I already bowed down. I said, no. Whenever you come in, you have to bow down. Like you have to remember the principle. That's the principle. When you come in, you bow down. That's it. It's very simple. And so the idea here is we have to recognize this defect and we have to recognize that this defect will take place in our interaction. Our interaction is bound to have defects. So now here, Diti and Kashyapa are now having recognized the defect, right? Now they are dealing with the outcome of the defect. And this is a Vaishnava way of dealing with an outcome of a defect. Right? Now we will, in this conversation, we will try and see the points that are being made. So first, now Diti is a very interesting character. Right? She has come twice in Bhagavatam. Right? She comes here and then she'll come in Canto 6 again. And the interesting thing in both the times of her presentation, one is here and one is in Canto 6, it's to do with her product. What is that? Her pregnancy. Both the times. So this is something for us to first contemplate. Okay, why are they so focused on Diti's pregnancy? Right? So there are two examples of Diti's pregnancy. First is we have to recognize that in this circumstance, in this one, right, that we are discussing, the time, place and circumstance was wrong. Okay? So her pregnancy yielded something inappropriate. In the other instance, her time, place and circumstance is correct. Oh, sorry. One more thing here. Here the time, place and circumstance is wrong. She wanted a good result, but she got a bad outcome. Right? That's the situation. In the other instance of Canto 6, the time, place and circumstance is correct. She wants a bad result, she gets a good outcome. It's intriguing, right? Sometimes you make a chart, you'll say compare, you'll be like, hey, what's going on? This is not right. So this is one understanding for us, right? So the reason why there's a focus on Diti's pregnancy, right? Why pregnancy, right? Is that when we enter this material world is a garbha, right? Hiranya garbha, the golden egg. And now in this egg we are residing, right? Now here the time, place and circumstance is not good. Yes? So we are in the first state of Diti. The time, place and circumstance is not good. So although we want a good result, I want to be happy. Yes? I want to lord over the material manifestation. What's wrong? Why can't I be Brahma? Why can't I be Indra? Why you are getting more fame than me? You know, these natural thoughts are coming, right? But this is our first state of Diti. First state of Diti, right? In first state of Diti, this is the mindset. So eventually our outcome is always bad. Because time, place and circumstance is wrong, our outcome will be bad. Right? This is the workings of the three modes. Right? So anyway, this is another conversation altogether. But the point is the three modes, if they are working in such a way, if time, place and circumstance is wrong, the result will be wrong. That's just the way it is. Right? You have to accept it. Now, in the second state, right? Now, what is the situation here? She wants a bad result. You want to yield a bad result. Right? We want to reject the material manifestation. Right? All of us. You are wearing oranges. You want to reject the material manifestation. Yes? But actually, when we read Vedanta Sutra, and even in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada makes this point as well, that this Brahman manifestation, this material world is actually part of Brahman. It is actually Krishna's energy. So what's actually wrong with it? Actually, what's wrong with it? It's very nice. Right? So that mindset. So although initially we may have a different outcome, but because the time, place and circumstance is correct, we are now in the fourth state. So if you see Canto 11, what does Krishna tell Uddhava? That pray to Lord Narayan in the fourth state. What is the fourth state? Vishuddha Sattva. So the first state is in the modes, in the gunas, but there is a fourth state. And he said, pray to Lord Narayan in the fourth state. In Bhagavad Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami uses this point to establish Krishna as Bhagavan. He uses all of these points, right? So this is the fourth state. This is Narayana. This is Krishna. He is outside. And so because he is outside, the time, place and circumstance becomes auspicious. And then the result is auspicious. You get bhakti of Krishna. Are you noticing? Right? So now here, we are in the first state. Right? So in the first state, now that you know there is a bad outcome, now that you are aware, time, place and circumstance was not correct, the outcome is going to be bad. Although the desire was good. Right? Although the desire was that a good result should happen, outcome can be bad. You may have a good desire, you're in the kitchen. I have a very good desire to cook prasadam for everyone. But then you're listening to that lecture and it's such an amazing lecture and the potato burns, the rice burns. The lecture is so good, right? Thinking, oh, that's a nice lecture. And, things are burning on the side. I remember once Ritesh was cooking. He burnt pasta. I'm like, you're the only guy I know who's burnt pasta. How could you burn pasta? The water evaporated, like we burned the pasta, right? Crisp black. I was like, I've never seen a burnt pasta. My first time I've seen it. So these things can happen. They happen, right? But you may be thinking, 3-4 devotees were there, we were discussing Bhagavatam, but burnt. These things can happen, right? So sometimes the time, place and circumstance is not appropriate. Although the desire is good, the outcome may be bad. Right? If you read this book, it's just come out. It's been out for a year or so. This I'll Build You a Temple. Right? Giriraj Maharaj's book. Very nice book. You will actually see that the frustration when you read that, you get frustrated when you read that book. A heavy frustration. To such a point that I'm actually agreeing with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhavananda Maharaj and all, and saying, why are we stuck in this land? This is a question, right? Why are we stuck in this land in Jew? We're getting thrashed from every side. Devotees are getting dragged by their hair to the police. It's hardcore, right? Right? So sometimes these things occur. But then a devotee, he persists. Right? So the way to persist is to first recognize the mistake. So you will notice that in that book, you will notice that in all of the conversations, only Srila Prabhupada recognizes the mistake. You will notice in that, when you read that book, you will notice Srila Prabhupada recognizes the mistake, and so he deals in such a way to rectify the mistake. He is the only one who is dealing to rectify the mistake. Everybody else is dealing, I made a mistake, let's move on. Everyone else wants to move on from the mistake. No, you've seen the mistake, it has to be rectified. Right? And until that point of rectification doesn't come, this stage that we are discussing is anartha nivritti. This stage that we are discussing, right? In devotion is anartha nivritti. Right? Most of us, in our devotional practice, we will be stuck in anartha nivritti for lifetimes. not just this lifetime. Lifetimes. Right? Because we need to remove this anartha. It has to come off. Right? And only then do you start getting a taste of like the nishtha, only then these things come, ashakti, and all of this stuff starts coming out. Right now in anartha nivritti, there is an idea that there is a mistake. I recognize the mistake. Now I have to rectify it. So now this conversation of Diti and Kashyapa is on the rectification. Right? Mistake is made. It's done. Right? The children are going to cause eclipse. These children, they're going to cause an eclipse in the heavenly regions. That is something. I don't know if you appreciate this. You cause eclipse here on the material world is something. You cause eclipse in the heavenly regions, you are really somebody. Like that is why, when Hanuman comes, everyone is worried. He gobbles up the sun. Like his shadow increases so high that people can't see the sun. He's a very powerful personality. They're like, who is this guy? Right? So, that recognition occurs, right? So now, because we have recognized this result, Diti is first presenting her points. Now, Diti's first point is, Na Brahma Danda Dagdhasya. Right? And this is an interesting point for all of us to contemplate. This Brahma Danda Dagdhasya is that a person who is condemned by a Brahmana is always fearful to other living entities. Right? So one who is condemned by a Brahmana. So the first question is, which Brahmana has condemned this situation? Kashyapa. He's a Brahmana. He's condemned the situation. Right? Is always fearful to other living entities. So now Diti understands it. So this is called recognition of a mistake. You're recognizing, okay, the Brahmana is not pleased, right? The result will not be good. So that recognition takes time. Now, please understand, Diti is carrying that recognition in her womb physically. We are carrying that recognition but subtly. Right? For most of us, we will carry this, oh, I did something wrong. That's okay. No, it's not okay. See, that's the point. It's not okay. So we have to deal with that state. Right? So Diti is dealing with it. Right? But Diti is physically carrying that result. Is that making sense? And so in one sense, the carrying of this result physically, right, enables one to become humble. Right? So you will notice a pregnant lady generally becomes humble. Generally becomes humble because you're pregnant, you're in a delicate state. You become humble. Right? Naturally you become humble. Right? So that state is there. Now for us as devotees, since we may be carrying many defects, right, that we have made, mistakes that we have made subtly, we should also become humble because of that. So this is her humility. Right? Now, today if a husband was to say something like this to his wife, or vice versa, the wife was to say something like this to her husband, how do you think that that conversation will go? Oh yes, I recognize my mistake. No? What did you say? Facebook, Twitter, divorce court. God knows where it ends up. Right? It'll end up in a very far-reaching manner. But here there is the internalization of the problem. So, Brahma Danda Dagdhasya. Right? That a person who is condemned by the Brahmana is always fearful. Now, something interesting in this conversation is that there is no mention of Vaishnava Aparadha. And in one sense, when we become a devotee, this becomes a problem. Right? Here, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu will kill many Brahmanas. They will hurt many Brahmanas. They will destroy many of the Brahmanical positions. Right? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. But they never do Vaishnava Aparadha until the time they reach Prahlad. That's a different state. That's completely different state. Right? But up until that point, the aparadha is not there. Why? Because all he is doing is establishing his supremacy. So at this point, he is all about selfishness. So a materialist, because he is all about being selfish, he doesn't create Vaishnava Aparadha. Because he doesn't understand Krishna. So how can he then do a Vaishnava Aparadha? To understand a devotee, you have to also understand Krishna. Right? Now for devotees, now if we flip it, devotee, because we understand Krishna, then Vaishnava Aparadha becomes a big problem. Are you getting how that works? It's very interesting, and in one sense it's hurtful. It's also hurtful. Saying, hey man, I'm a devotee, I'm eating Mahaprasad, I'm chanting my rounds. Why is Krishna so hard on me? Look at these guys, they're eating beef. Srivas Acharya, today Srivas Acharya's, Thakur, it's his appearance day. We have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Thakur. So nice surnames, right? Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, Thakur. So he's a Thakur, right? So Srivas Thakur, there's a very nice incident in Srivas Thakur's. There is it Gopal Chapala? Was that his name? Govinda Chava? Gopal Chapala. Right? Gopal Chapala. There is this personality, Gopal Chapala. It's a very interesting personality. Now, it's a long story, but we will try to summarize it to make this point. What he ends up doing is he ends up causing an aparadh to Srivas Thakur. Now he gets leprosy. Okay, he gets leprosy and he's really struggling, like badly struggling. They have thrown him on the other side of Ganga. Get out! On the other side. Right? Kinara. Right? So, he's on the other side. But the good thing is that he's on the side of Ganga. So, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Because in the side, then you'll get Krishna. Right? So, he's on that. And finally, he sees Lord Chaitanya. And so, it's a very nice conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Gopal Chapala. He's telling Lord Chaitanya, you're the Supreme Personality of God. You're magnanimous. So, now, what does this tell you? What does this tell you? Gopal Chapala knows who's Lord Chaitanya. Are you understanding? He knows who's Krishna. He gets it. He's a Brahmana. He's read it. He understands it. Okay? He gets that part. Right? But, here's the key point, right? But, what does Lord Chaitanya tell him? No, you're a sinner. Now, here's something interesting for all of you, right? What is that situation? We are in a situation where the Mughals are ruling India. So, what do the Mughals do? They are cow eaters. All of this problem is happening. And what is Lord Chaitanya saying? Gopal Chapala. You're the sinner. Interesting, isn't it? My wife was listening to this and she was saying, but Lord Chaitanya could have finished. Isn't it? Lord Chaitanya could have finished all the Mughals. Yes, of course he can. Yes, he can. But that's not the point. The point is, who is actually the sinner? Who is actually the sinner? One who, having heard of Krishna, not recognizing Krishna and his devotees, he is the sinner. Right? Atma Hanta. This is Ishopanishad. Right? Who is the killer of the soul, whoever he may be? A beautiful line, isn't it? So beautiful, poetic. Killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must go into the deepest, darkest. So this is Krishna's point. This is what Lord Chaitanya is telling Gopal Chapala. And then of course, there's a big conversation. Finally, Lord Chaitanya says, Gopal, you made a mistake to Srivas Thakur. Now you go and get his forgiveness. And when he gets forgiveness, then the problem is resolved. Right? So the idea here being that although a standard materialistic person, right, may be doing very sinful activities, the one opportunity they have is they're not doing Vaishnava Aparadha. That is the one opportunity they have. They are not doing Vaishnava Aparadha. So the idea here is, let's say you go out preaching and someone is, just, completely agnostic and is, fighting back with you in that preaching. Right? They're not doing any aparadha. They're not. That's not an aparadha. They are selfish. They don't understand who's Krishna. So why will they recognize you? For what? So, are you understanding? So it's not an aparadha. Now, vice versa. Imagine there's a devotee and you're talking to a devotee, and now the way that street, the person at the street is dealing with you, if the devotee was to deal with you, that's aparadha. I know, it's very intriguing, isn't it? So interesting. And so in one sense, this becomes our fall down. Now the idea here is that, that means I shouldn't interact with devotees. No. The idea here is to come to this state of diti in recognizing the defect. Are you appreciating? It's not that I won't interact with devotees. It's like, no, you have to recognize the defect, and when you recognize the defect, you can now rectify. So that is why it is explained that in all the aparadhas, in the solution to all the aparadhas, in Harinam Chintamani also Bhaktivinoda Swami makes this point, that actually the single solution for all of this is sadhu sangha. You're like, but sadhu sangha is causing the aparadha. Yeah, and so the solution is sadhu sangha. Interesting, isn't it? Isn't it? This is amazing, right? So this is similar to chanting, right? The chanting is the process and the goal, right? The ashraya and the vishaya, both, right? It is both. So similar, same thing here, same point here, right? And so here, Diti, because she is recognizing that, she is not leaving the association, rather she is contemplating in that association. And so now, so this is 43. We can't go, it's the Sanskrit words because we have to do 4 shlokas, so more shlokas. But then in 44 and 45, Kashyapa Muni is recognizing her desire to have sadhu sangha, although she is carrying 2 of the greatest demons. Is that being appreciated? She is carrying 2 of the greatest demons, right? 2 of the greatest demons, but she has a desire for sadhu sangha. So then what is he saying? Because of your lamentation, penitence, and proper deliberation, because of this, you and your unflinching faith. Right? So your Shraddha. Right? So once you have Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha gives result. Now, the difference here being is that when you are out in the street, you are providing Sadhu Sangha, but there is no Shraddha. So there is no aparadha. But if there is Shraddha and there is Sadhu Sangha, there will be aparadha. No, I'm not saying there will be, meaning, no, there has to be an aparadha, otherwise, that is the icing on the cake. No. Invariably, in the dealings, there might be aparadha. So we have to be like Diti in recognizing that. Right? That is the learning from Diti. We have to recognize that mistake. Right? And so here Kashyapa is saying, because you have the Shraddha, your Sadhu Sangha will yield a result. It's going to yield a result. Right? And what is that result? Of course, in the beginning he says, he gives one benediction that your sons will be killed by Vishnu. That's one benediction. Right? But here is a greater benediction. Now, this is how Krishna is, right? Wherever Krishna is, there will be a result. Right? And we have to understand it. That is how jivas come. We are the results of Krishna. Is that making sense? Sometimes we may be thinking, how are the jivas produced? From Krishna. How? That is Krishna. Anything Krishna does, there will be a result. So jivas keep popping out. Is that making sense? This is Chit Shakti. Right? This is Chit Shakti. Means it's always cognizant. And who is the most cognizant? Krishna. Right? So jivas are continuously coming out. Is that making sense? Like that. That's how we see, right? So now here, because Diti has that recognition, he's saying that there will be a good result coming out. Who is that result? Prahlad. Prahlad is that result. So although Diti, physically carrying two demons, right, the twins, is looking at her husband, recognizing what she is holding, and she holds them for about 100 years or thereabouts, right? She holds them in their womb for about 100, like for a long time, for a long term, right? She's recognizing that, okay, there is a process by which I can change, right? And the cause of that change allows Prahlad to come. That is the Anartha Nivritti. And through the process of Anartha Nivritti, now Nishtha can form. So Prahlad comes. Right? So this is interesting for all of us to see and observe. So then finally, I'll just finish this. Now finally in 46 it says, in order to follow in his footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as the purifying process rectify gold of inferior quality. Right? So that's, now here is a glorification of Prahlad. Prahlad, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that Prahlad is actually the four Kumaras. They felt very bad. They cursed Jaya Vijaya. Felt very bad. We cursed Jaya Vijaya. They were just doing their service. They're not doing anything. They look so beautiful, right? They're just doing their service. So they feel bad. So they say, okay, we'll come as Prahlad. And let us take everything that he gives. So, this is humility. We're talking about Vaishnava and sadhus, right? This is humility. Right? So then they take us Prahlad. So now, Prahlad, he becomes the highest form of representation of devotee. And it's explained that even Haridas Thakur, right? He is Brahma and Prahlad. They both. Right? He's both of them. And so you will see that that mood of the four Kumaras in lamentation, right? They give rise to this personality called Prahlad. And you will notice that in wherever he goes, there is some struggle. Like he struggles, there is lamentation. But then his devotion is so solid that it doesn't budge him. The lamentation doesn't affect him. Na sochati, na kankshati. So that's very interesting, right? So Prahlad is such a personality that devotees will observe him and say, this is the way to be a devotee. So all of us, we will see, within our cycle of, reading Bhagavatam, we'll see, we'll appreciate Dhruva's determination, like very determined, right? We'll see Prahlad's dedication, highly dedicated, wow, so fixed, so focused, right? So we appreciate that. So, right, and then of course, we gopis, and when we enter Vrindavan, then the gopas and the gopis, they're in a whole different level altogether, right? That's entering into a different realm. But for us, at least from qualities, we can appreciate this. Dhairyavan and Viryavan. So the Dhairyavan, we can see the Dhruva, and the Viryavan, you can see in Prahlad. And you see these qualities in both of them. It's not like you don't see it in both of them, but one of them emulates one of them very nicely. And so then you will notice that Krishna comes in that form for both of them. For both of them, he comes in a Dhairya form for Dhruva, he comes in a Virya form for Prahlad. It's very interesting, isn't it? So yeah. So this is, we don't have much time, but then in these four shlokas, we will summarize again. We see Diti's recognition of a mistake. We see Diti's acknowledgement of a mistake. We see Diti realizing that, okay, Vaishnava, that is because there is no Vaishnava aparad, right? At least there is opportunity. We see Kashyapa then blessing to say that now that you have seen your mistake, right, there is a grand opportunity here for devotion to take birth, which is the personal personification Prahlad Maharaj, right? And then we finally see that the saintly persons will follow this Prahlad because he is There's a very nice thing here, right? Purifying process rectify gold of inferior quality. That he is such a chintamani that when he will touch, bell metal, like he will turn everything into gold. That's Prahlad. So here is a summary of these 4 shlokas. Devotees want to share something? It's 8:45. No? Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna